Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Today I will show it information about Iceland. Iceland, island country located in the North Atlantic Ocean. Lying on the constantly active geologic border between North America and Europe, Iceland is a land of vivid contrasts of climate, geography, and culture. Sparkling glaciers, such as Vatna Glacier, Vatnajökull, Europe's largest, lie across its ruggedly beautiful mountain ranges. Abundant hot geysers provide heat for many of the country's homes and buildings and allow for hothouse agriculture year-round, and the offshore Gulf Stream provides a surprisingly mild climate for what is one of the northernmost inhabited places on the planet. Iceland was founded more than 1,000 years ago during the Viking Age of exploration and settled by a mixed Norse and Celtic population. The early settlement, made up primarily of Norwegian seafarers and adventurers, fostered further excursions to Greenland and the coast of North America, which the Norse called Vinland. Despite its physical isolation some 500 miles (800 kilometers) from Scotland, its nearest European neighbor Iceland has remained throughout its history very much a part of European civilization. The Icelandic sagas, most of which recount heroic episodes that took place at the time the island was settled, are regarded as among the finest literary achievements of the Middle Ages, reflecting a European outlook while commemorating the history and customs of a people far removed from continental centers of commerce and culture. The capital, Reykjavík, Bay of Smokes, is the site of the island's first farmstead and is a thriving city, handsome in aspect and cosmopolitan in outlook. Other major population centers are Akureyri, on the north-central coast, Hafnarfjordur, on the southwestern coast, and Selfoss, in the southern lowlands. Iceland is a Scandinavian country, the world's oldest democracy but modern in nearly every respect. Unlike most European countries, however, it is ethnically homogeneous, so much so that genetic researchers have used its inhabitants to study hereditary disorders and develop cures for a host of diseases. Although increasingly integrated into the European mainstream, Icelanders take care to preserve their traditions, customs, and language. Many Icelanders, for example, still believe in elves, trolls, and other figures in the mythical landscape of the Norse past, while even Icelanders who live in cities harbor a vision of their country as a pastoral land, in the words of Nobel Prize-winning author Halldór Laxness. Iceland's rugged coastline, of more than 3,000 miles (4,800 kilometers), meets the Greenland Sea on the north, the Norwegian Sea on the east, the Atlantic Ocean on the south and west, and the Denmark Strait, which separates it from Greenland by about 200 miles (320 kilometers) on the northwest. Glacier ice and cooled lava each cover approximately 1/10 of the country's total area. The glaciers are a reminder of Iceland's proximity to the Arctic Circle, which nearly touches its northernmost peninsula. The area covered by Vatnajökull, Vatna Glacier, the country's largest, is equal to the combined total area covered by all the glaciers on the continent of Europe. The volcanoes, reaching deep into the unstable interior of the Earth, are explained by the fact that Iceland is located on top of the mid-Atlantic ridge. It is estimated that since the year 1500 about one-third of the Earth's total lava flow has poured out of the volcanoes of Iceland. Geologically young, Iceland contains about 200 volcanoes of various types. A new volcano erupting on the bottom of the sea between November 1963 and June 1967 created the island of Surtsey, off the southwestern coast. The new island grew to about 1 square mile, 2.5 square kilometers, in area and rose more than 560 feet, 170 meters, above sea level, a total of 950 feet, 290 meters, from the ocean floor. Volcanic activity has been particularly frequent since the 1970s. A major eruption took place in 1973, when a volcano on Hima Island, Jaime, spilled lava into the town of Vestmannaeyjar, an important fishing center. Most of the more than 5,000 residents had to be evacuated, and although the harbor remained intact, about one-third of the town was destroyed. Continuous eruptions took place in the Krafla area in the northeast in 1975–84, damaging a geothermal generating project in the area. Iceland's best-known volcano, Hekla, erupted 4 times in the 20th century, in 1947, 1970, 1980, and 1991. It also had a series of small eruptions in 2000. There were eruptions in the Vatnajökull area in 1983 and 1996. Evangelical volcano, beneath an extension of Mýrdalsjökull Glacier, erupted in March 2010 for the first time since 1821. It erupted again beginning on April 14 and sent wandering ash plumes into the skies that disrupted air traffic for days across northern and central Europe. Iceland is largely a tableland broken up by structural faults. Its average elevation is 1,640 feet, 500 meters, above sea level, but one-fourth of the country lies below 650 feet, 198 meters. The highest point is 6,952 feet, 2,119 meters, at Vatnsdal's Peak, the top of Reykjavík in Vatnajökull. The glaciers range in size from those in small mountain recesses to the enormous glacial caps topping extensive mountain ranges. Vatnajökull covers an area of more than 3,000 square miles, 8,000 square kilometers, and is about 3,000 feet, 900 meters, deep at its thickest point. Much of Iceland is underlain by basalt, a dark rock of igneous origin. The oldest rocks were formed about 16 million years ago. The landscape in basaltic areas is one of plateau and fjord, characterized by successive layers of lava visible one above the other on the valley sides. The basalt sheets tend to tilt somewhat toward the center of the country. Iceland's U-shaped valleys are largely the result of glacial erosion. The depressed zones between the basalt areas have extensive plateaus above which rise single volcanoes, table mountains, or other mountain masses with steep sides. Iceland has more hot springs and solfataras of volcanic vents that emit hot gases and vapors than any other country. Alkaline hot springs are found in some 250 areas throughout the country. The largest, Deildartunguver, emits nearly 50 gallons, 190 liters, of boiling water per second. The total power output of the Torfa Glacier area, the largest of the 19 high-temperature Solfatara regions, is estimated to equal about 1,000 megawatts. Earthquakes are frequent in Iceland but rarely result in serious damage. Most of the buildings erected since the mid-20th century have been built of reinforced concrete and designed to withstand severe shocks from earthquakes. Traditionally, Iceland has been divided according to the 4 points of the compass. The center of the country is uninhabited. In the southwest, several fine natural harbors have directed interest toward the sea, and good fishing grounds lie off the shores of this region. Because of its extensive lava fields and heaths, the southwest has little farmland. The Middle West is divided between fishing and farming and has many places of great natural beauty. The western fjords have numerous well-sheltered harbors and good fishing grounds, but little lowland suitable for agriculture. The north is divided into several smaller districts, each of which has relatively good farmland. The eastern fjords resemble the western fjords but have, in addition, an inner lowland. The southeast, locked between the glaciers and the sea, has a landscape of rugged splendor. The southern lowland comprises the main farming region. Soil and climatic conditions are favorable, and it is close to the country's largest market, Reykjavík, and its environs. Iceland lies on the border between a tundra vegetation zone of treeless plains and a taiga zone of coniferous forests. Only about one-fourth of the country is covered by a continuous carpet of vegetation. Bogs and moors are extensive, and sparse grasslands are often overgrazed. The remains of large birch forests are found in many places. A reforestation program instituted by the government in the 1950s has shown considerable success since the mid-1970s. Foxes were the only land mammals in Iceland at the time of its settlement. Humans brought domestic and farm animals and accidentally introduced rats and mice. Later, reindeer were introduced, and many are still found in the northeastern highlands. After 1930, mink that were brought in for the production of furs also became wild in the country. Bird life in Iceland is varied. Many nesting cliffs are densely inhabited, and the colony of ducks at Lake Mævin, in the north, is the largest and most varied in Europe. Salmon and trout abound in the lakes, brooks, and rivers. The fishing banks off the Icelandic shores are abundantly endowed with fish, although these resources have been considerably eroded by overexploitation. There are no reptiles or amphibians in Iceland. The population of Iceland is extremely homogeneous. The inhabitants are descendants of settlers who began arriving in AD 874 and continued in heavy influx for about 60 years thereafter. Historians differ on the exact origin and ethnic composition of the settlers but agree that between 60 and 80% of them were of Nordic stock from Norway. The rest, from Scotland and Ireland, were largely of Celtic stock. The dominant language in the period of settlement was Old Norse, the language spoken in Norway at the time. Through the centuries it has evolved into modern Icelandic, which is used throughout the country. Modern Icelanders can still read Icelandic sagas in Old Norse without difficulty. There are no ethnic distinctions. The early Nordic and Celtic stocks have long since merged, and the relatively small number of subsequent immigrants, the largest portion of whom are Poles, has had only a limited effect on the population structure. The Lutheran faith has been the dominant religion since the mid-16th century. More than two-thirds of the population belongs to the state-supported Evangelical Lutheran Church. There is freedom of religion. Because agriculture was the chief economic activity, the population of Iceland was evenly distributed throughout the inhabitable parts of the country until the end of the 19th century. With the advent of the fishing industry, commerce, and services at the beginning of the 20th century, the population became increasingly concentrated in towns and villages. At the beginning of the 21st century, more than 90% of the population lived in communities of 200 or more people. The mainstay of most coastal towns is fishing and fish processing. The greatest population concentration is in Reykjavík and its environs, with about 3/5 of Iceland's total population. Reykjavík is a modern, cosmopolitan urban center that, in addition to being the seat of government, is the national focus of commerce, industry, higher education, and cultural activity. Akureyri, a fishing and educational center situated on the Ísafjörð in the north, is second in importance. Reykjanesbær is a fishing port on the southwestern peninsula near Keflavik International Airport. The Westman Islands, off the southern coast, have some of the most important fishing operations in Iceland. Akranes, located across the bay from Reykjavík, is a service town for its region and has some industry. Ísafjörður is a service town for the western fjord area. Seyðisfjörður and Jakobsdóttir, on the eastern coast, are important ports for herring and capelin fishing. Höfn, on the southeastern coast, is also an important fishing port. Selfoss is in the southern lowlands, serving the farming region, and is the largest inland rural community in Iceland. One of the most active volcanic regions in the world, Iceland contains about 200 volcanoes and accounts for 1/3 of Earth's total lava flow. 1/10 of the area is covered by cooled lava beds and glaciers, including Vatnajökull. Iceland's rugged coastline is more than 3,000 miles, 4,800 kilometers long. The economy is based heavily on fishing and fish products but also includes hydropower production, livestock, and aluminum processing. Iceland is a unitary multiparty republic with one legislative house, its head of state is the president, and the head of government is the prime minister. Iceland was settled by Norwegian seafarers in the 9th century and was Christianized by 1000. Its legislature, the Althingi, founded in 930, is one of the oldest legislative assemblies in the world. Iceland united with Norway in 1262 and with Denmark in 1380. It became an independent state of Denmark in 1918, but it severed those ties to become an independent republic in 1944. Vigdis Finnbogadóttir, the first woman in the world to be elected a head of state, served 4 terms as the republic's president, 1980 to 96. Thanks for watching.